I believe that a third attempt on President Trump is incoming, and today I'm going to tell you how the Secret Service and their willingness to withhold information from Trump and some of the things that are going on with the CIA and some of the plots against Trump could all tie this thing together, and I believe it'll all happen before Election Day. I think at least one more is coming towards President Trump, and I want to sound the alarm on that in hopes that he will do whatever is necessary to keep himself safe, because he is 100% the target still for a lot of these people. And so I want to talk about that. I want to show you a very disturbing type of video here that I found. Yeah, you're going to want to see it. I want to hear your opinion. If you agree or disagree, it doesn't matter. Leave that down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now let's talk about our friends at the Secret Service that we've spent so much time scrutinizing over the past couple months. Well, since Director Rowe has been in for the Secret Service, he said, hey, President Trump is going to be getting all of the assets that he needs, as much as the current president actually. So there's going to be no more concerns. Well, we saw a second assassination attempt where, just a few hundred yards essentially, if he wasn't spotted by a counter sniper, then this could have played out way differently. But the fact that this guy was able to get so close to Trump and be in position to potentially take him out on his golf course in an area that is known to Secret Service to be a security threat is really telling. But what the Secret Service is doing now is keeping auditors away from certain Trump events. They'll allow them into some. I believe they allowed them into the return to Butler, right? That's a very highly publicized event.
And as I was saying,
right, the first assassination attempt place, Trump comes back to it, speaks in the same spot, right? There's a lot of energy around that. The auditors, I believe, were allowed to go to that one, but they're being withheld from others, and the question is, why? Well, according to Josh Hawley and his sources, they say that it's because Trump isn't always getting the amount of protective assets like the Secret Service is claiming. Whether it's due to staffing issues in certain places that Trump is going, lack of preparation, or maybe they just simply don't care. Whatever the reasons are, they are keeping some of those auditors from going in. And I think that is important if we know that there are security lapses at some of these Trump events. But who would perpetrate the potential third assassination plot? And my belief is it's actually very simple. You look no further than Iran. Now, I talked about this just days after the first assassination attempt. You had a Steve Merchant that was known to the FBI. He actually met up with who he thought were hitmen, which were actually undercover informants. Now, he was a Pakistani man with ties to Iran, trying to drum up this elaborate plot, right? Where you have, 30-something diverters or protesters, right? Get the attention of security personnel in one spot and then do the assassination in another direction, right? It's a very common diversion tactic. But at the same time, fairly elaborate if you consider, code words written on napkins, an elaborate plan. Well, you have the CIA informant or previous CIA informant in Afghanistan that was just arrested on a plot to actually cause terror on Election Day. This happened in Oklahoma very recently, and he worked for the CIA. Now, the problem is we don't know if he was radicalized before he came into the U.S. or after he came into the U.S. We know that he worked with the CIA, but did he come in on a SIV, Special Immigration Visa, which is much more stringent in its process of vetting, or did he come in under a parole visa? And that's what it seems like happened, is that he actually came in on parole visa, which the process for vetting is a lot less stringent. But we've seen other people that have caused terror in the United States come in on DIVs and humanitarian type parole visas where the vetting is less. Now, why is the vetting less? I have no idea. But if you look at San Bernardino, look at the Halloween attack in 2017, Pulse nightclub, right? These are people that have been radicalized to perform terror attacks on the United States and have taken American lives in all three of those incidents. The problem is, these are just the people that we're hearing about them catching. You have one that was a former CIA informant or CIA operative in Afghanistan that was just arrested. But how many more are here that went through a very lax vetting process, or maybe no vetting at all, that are here planning the same exact thing, that aren't talking to informants, that have not been found out yet? Here's a very disturbing and interesting video that I think y'all need to see. Now that's a pretty disturbing video considering what just happened at a Trump golf course, right? Trump International, right? It all goes back to Hassan Soleimani, right? They want to get Trump. They've said as much, right? Biden, Trump, Nikki Haley, John Bolton. They've named so many politicians that they want to get, but the primary target has always been Trump because they blame him for that attack. And Trump sees it as a win, right? It was a win, right? When you take somebody out that is a terrorist, a known terrorist that has caused harm to Americans, 100% that was a win. And we know that they've said that that will not go unpunished. Iran has already hacked into Trump's campaign this year, right? He's been their sole focus since 2020, since Soleimani was killed in that drone attack, right? And so it is their goal, right, to essentially sow discord into America, right? Because they know, as well as I know, as well as you know, that if President Trump were to actually be assassinated, that there would be so much disruption and chaos between Americans, right? Because everybody's going to be pointing the finger at Secret Service, at the president, at the vice president, right? For all of the heinous things they're saying. President Trump is un-American because he disputes how the Biden administration has helped people in North Carolina, right? They've called him Hitler for a number of years. We've talked about this stuff, or the second coming of Hitler, in the United States. So when you have all of this anger built up, and you have Americans that literally hate each other because of who they're voting for, that leads to all-out chaos if they were actually able to pull off this attempted assassination, or actually able to pull off an assassination on President Trump. It would be an absolute nightmare for all Americans. It's something, I don't care if you can hate Trump to the core, right? You can have Trump derangement syndrome that, is still just ongoing. It's taking over every cell in your body. But what you don't want is him assassinated, right? Because there's so much anger and distrust after 2 assassination attempts. That is not what you want. And, kind of my plea, right, to President Trump and his team is to, take on extra security. They always praise Secret Service, and I think they're praising the people on the ground that are doing what they can, to keep him safe. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily have to be at a rally, right? We've seen potentially at a golf course. Could be him getting on or off a plane, right? It could be any number of, he's always traveling. And I don't know if y'all remember 4 years ago, again, whether you like him, love him, loathe him, doesn't matter, but there's a picture of President Trump like the last day of the election, right? Just hours before the election were to end or something, or maybe the day before, where he's, his shirt's undone, his tie is off, he's just worn out because he was flying from multiple states in a day. So he's always going to different events. And so if they're not keeping up, Secret Service, Department of Homeland Security, whoever is in charge, or I'm sorry, whoever is involved, we know Secret Service is in charge, but if they're not communicating with local law enforcement, if they're not communicating well with DHS, if they're keeping auditors from coming in for some weird reason, meaning that they probably don't have the assets that Trump needs, he should bring in his own immediately, 100% if he hasn't already. He should be bringing those people in because, again, you can take them with you, right? Give him a layout of whatever needs to happen, but he needs to have people around him 24/7, right? Everywhere he goes, private security of some kind, in addition to his Secret Service security, because he's just going to too many places. There's too many openings for Iran to bring in somebody that's crazy enough to pull something like this off. And the closer you get to election day, the more you're going to see some of these threats, credible threats, but then the ones you don't hear about, the ones you hear about that are too late are the ones that I'm really concerned with. And just like y'all, I don't trust the FBI, CIA, Secret Service, any three-letter agency out there, including the USSS. I don't trust any of them because we know that they're willing to withhold information. They were pissed that Senator Grassley released FBI documents showing that President Trump was a part of an assassination plot, even though the DOJ had already released those things. They don't want this information to get out there. They say it's in the name of security when we know that they're not vetting people coming here and they're not providing the security that Trump really needs. He's got to provide his own on top of what he's already getting. Now, are these diversion tactics for somebody that they've already brought into the loop, who maybe is just a white American, like we've already seen with the two others before, right? You have a drifter construction worker, right, that is, sympathetic to Ukraine and sympathetic to Iranians and Afghans. It's a really weird thing. So these people are willing to literally give their lives for a crazy ideology. So that could be the diversion away from, right, the actual threat, people they've already brought in that aren't going to show up on some kind of a list. They haven't had their plans infiltrated because they already have pieces in place to pull this thing off. Again, I hope it does not happen. I just don't see any scenario where there's not at least one more attempt on Trump. Hopefully he will get his own security involved. The best of the best is what he needs right now. There you go. That's my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. No matter if you agree or disagree, let me know what you think down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.